Good morning everyone, it's nice to be back with another video. It's been quite a long time since the last one, very busy with work, so it's nice to come back and do another video. Today I had a reason to actually film one in the Polestar. I've got a fairly long drive to do, 153 miles there and 153 miles back in a day to pick up something I bought on eBay. So I thought it's going to be a great opportunity to talk about some of the things that have changed on the Polestar, some of the updates, and also just to see how the range copes with a longer drive in warmer weather conditions. I'm starting off with it being 12 degrees this morning, so it's not particularly warm. It is the middle of summer. It's supposed to be about 18-19 degrees during the day, so we'll see how the car copes with that. So we're starting off with 90% battery. I tried to charge to 100% last night, and this is one of the things that is frustrating with the Polestar. I will show you this on the charging screen. So over here on the main Polestar screen, if I go over to charge, I've got this set to 100%, but it did not charge to 100% overnight. That is something that I found quite frustrating. On a regular basis, I find that feature doesn't really seem to work. So if you have a look over here on the screen, you'll see that it says that we are at 90%. With a total range of 220 miles. Now, if I go here into this display, since the last software update, there's been a few little glitches to do with kilometers and miles. This morning I come to the car to see that we've got miles showing here, but yesterday that was showing in kilometers. A lot of people have reported this issue. So I'm going to click to reset. You can see 32.7 kilowatt hours per 100 miles is what I had on my trip manual previously. So now I've reset the trip auto, and we'll see what we get on the drive today. So let's just go over to the screen again and we'll see where we're going. This is another thing that's improved, which is quite nice. If I go over here and I select my destination, it is LE3, there we go, LE9 3BB. So that's where I'm going to go today. It is showing 2 hours 40 minutes, 153 miles, 14% on arrival, and minus 59% on return. That's quite a nice feature that was added with a software update a little while ago. So it gives you an idea of where you're at if you want to come back. It's quite useful on drives where you might be able to make it there and back in a day. It'll give you an idea of what you'll get back with. But of course today there's no way we're going to arrive back with that. But we do have enough range to get there. So another thing that's worth having a look at, if you look over here, we've got 220 miles of range showing. If we go back to this screen, we now have an app that's the range assistance app, which is much more useful than the range display on the main screen. So this is showing 210 miles. This is based on my previous style of driving. Tools like the range assistant display are much more useful than the range display on the main screen of the Polestar, which is based on a very set consumption number. The range assistant is based on your own driving style, so that will adapt and it will change over time. So it is interesting that it's showing 210 miles because it's 153 miles and we're going to get there with 14%. So I still feel like maybe there's a bit of a mismatch there between the range assistant and what Google Maps actually says, but we'll try and keep that in mind. 14% on arrival, and we'll see what we actually get there with today. Okay, so we've arrived at the first stop. I'm at a service station on the M1 heading north towards the Leicester area. And yeah, I've been driving for about an hour and 20 minutes or so I thought I'd stop, just grab a coffee. We are down to 52% in terms of consumption numbers, and Google Maps is showing 22% now on arrival. So let me just show you that on the screen. So down here we've got an hour and 28 to go, 22% on arrival, which is interesting because, as I said earlier, it said 14%, which I always think is too pessimistic. So it's coming up with a much better number now of 22%. And now looking here at the main display, you can see that it is showing 52% now we have. But now look, the range is showing in kilometers, and this is an issue that lots of people have had since the last update. But if we have a look at the consumption now, we've been driving for an hour and 29 minutes, 30.7 kilowatt hours per 100 miles. So that's pretty good when you consider that this is a 75 kilowatt hour battery that we've got in this car. Getting pretty good consumption numbers these days since the various software updates and also in this warmer kind of weather. So the issue that I've now got here is I was planning to stop and charge for a little bit, because it makes sense if you're stopping to go to the toilet, get something to eat for 10-15 minutes, you might as well charge while you're stopped. Even though I'm at 50%, I don't really need to charge at the moment. But this is what's quite interesting. A lot of my previous videos, if you've been following my channel, were filmed during easing of lockdowns and various things over the last couple of years when there was less traffic on the roads. There's been a huge growth in electric car purchases over the last couple of years, and especially now with the fuel price being so high in the UK, we're seeing a massive growth in interest in electric cars. So of course I've pulled up here at the service station, and there are a couple of GridServe chargers that are in use. Now there's no point in me queuing here because I don't really want to be here for very long. I want to get going as soon as I can, so I'm not going to be able to charge. And this, I think, is one of the problems we're going to see more and more of in the coming years, is as electric car interest grows, the charging infrastructure is growing. I will give the companies that are putting these into place a lot of credit for that, but I'm not sure they're going fast enough. This is a major service station on the M1. There aren't many other service stations around here, and there are only 2 charging points. That's just not good enough. What we need is big banks of charging points. We need 10, 15, 20 units, not 2. That's just not going to be good enough. So it's kind of a shame to stop at this service station, not be able to charge. We're going to carry on and see what it's like, probably get there, pick up what we need to get, and then go and find somewhere to charge that I know I'll be able to charge successfully at. Okay, so I've reached my destination now on the drive today. I've picked up what I need to get, a couple of nice subwoofers that I bought on eBay. And I am at the motor services on the M6. This is a really nice GridServe charging location. There are so many spaces here. There's a whole array of Tesla chargers, and then there's a whole array of GridServe chargers running along the other side. It is one of the only places where you can reliably go and find a charger. So before getting here, I actually tried to charge at Instavolt. There was an Instavolt close to where I needed to pick up these subwoofers. But unfortunately, there were only 2 charging spaces there. It was at a McDonald's. I waited for 5 minutes and there was no sign of the people who were charging. I thought, actually, this could be a waste of time. So I decided instead to come to this GridServe location because I've been here before. But I had to detour a little bit. Now, there's quite bad traffic on the M1 due to an accident. There's always problems on these kinds of roads in the UK. So I looked at the time it was going to take. It's probably added 10 minutes to my journey to come to this charging location, which is better than having charged at the Instavolt, which was slower and I might have had to wait a long time. And I'm extremely excited because it's the first time I've hit 150 kilowatts. I've not seen that before in my Polestar ever. And obviously there's been software updates. There have been numerous software updates in the last year or so, and I haven't actually had an opportunity to do a long drive where I've run the battery down to a low level. But I want to show you this. If I spin the camera around, look at this. You can see on the display that I have got 27% battery and I'm getting 150 kilowatts on my charging speed here. So this is really good. I've set it to 80% and it's saying I'm going to finish at 13:17, which is in just 30 minutes. So to go from, I got here with 15%, to go from 15% up to 80% is estimating to only have taken me about 35 minutes. So I have to be honest, I am really happy about that. It is so good to see that these warmer temperatures, getting the battery up to temperature, I didn't have to do any tricks, anything weird, and the software updates that have been implemented by Polestar, as well as using good chargers like this, have allowed me to hit 150 kilowatts finally, which is really, really good. So in terms of consumption data, let's see what we got. We have been going for, we've done 178 miles so far, 3 hours 49 of driving, 30.5 kilowatt hours per 100 miles. So I'll put the calculation on the screen, but that works out to some really reasonable numbers of around the 240 mile mark. Those are good consumption numbers. Obviously, you're not going to drive the 240 miles, but when I got this car a couple of years ago now, in the winter when it was cold, I was lucky to get 180 miles. In the summer, it started to improve, but I genuinely feel that Polestar have made some really nice improvements to the software on the car, and I'm regularly now seeing this kind of consumption data, giving me about 220 to 240 miles. So we've been charging for a few minutes now. We're up to 35%, and the charging info is showing 134 kilowatts. So it's slowed down a little bit, but not a lot, which is really great to see. And it's interesting looking around here. This is a great charging location, but all the Tesla chargers are full, and the GridServe ones are not. So there are Tesla drivers who are turning up and actually choosing to use some of these GridServe locations instead of the Tesla chargers at the end. GridServe is fantastic, and I know they are rolling out more of these, but I just hope that they put more in at more service stations soon. Some of the old Ecotricity sites that they've taken over, they've modernized and improved, but they've still got some of them have only got 1 or 2 chargers, and some of them are very slow. This is a great example of how it should be done though. So I want to try and determine how much charge I need to get home, because I've set 80% as my charging limit. I don't necessarily need to stay here to charge all the way up to 80%. Having a look at the map will help you to determine what kind of a charge you need. So let's take a look at the display. You can see on the display here, to get home, 2 hours 45 minutes, 138 miles. Charging needed, so if I go now, I'll arrive at the minus 25%. So on that basis, looking at what I've got now over here on the display, I've got 39%, 40%. If I add, or it's now saying 23%. So say I add 25 to 40, that's 65%. So on that basis, I need to get to 65%. So let's go over here and change our charging limit to 70%. because that'll give me a little bit of contingency. And 70% now says that I will finish charging at 13:07, which is in just under 28 plus 7, that's 15 minutes time. Now I need to go in and get something to eat and use the toilet, so that's actually really good, because that'll be perfect, and then we'll come back to the car and see if we're ready to go. Okay, so we have reached 70%, and it's showing 6% on arrival. So 70%, and we've got 138 miles to go. Hopefully that's going to be enough. It's interesting to see sometimes, because it can be a little bit pessimistic. I think that's going to arrive with 6%, so I think that's fine for me. I'm not going to bother to stay here much longer, because one of the things is the cost is quite high now for electricity. So I finally made it back. That was a long day of driving, 7 hours and 14 minutes. I mean, I was only going from Sussex up to Leicester, and that was meant to take 2 hours 45 each way, but the traffic on the roads coming back was just horrendous. But what do you expect? It's the UK on a Friday afternoon. So it was yeah, again, a fantastic driving experience in the Polestar. I stopped once to charge. That's all I needed for that round trip, which was so showing I traveled 509 kilometers, and I'll put the number of miles on the screen below. But you know, as I was saying, with the software updates being doing some weird stuff, some things are showing in kilometers, some in miles, and it seems to chop and change randomly. Now my odometer is showing 34,000 kilometers. This morning it was showing miles. I wish Polestar would properly bug check their releases before they push them out to the cars, because little glitches like this aren't a big deal, but still, it's kind of unprofessional. It's a little amateur. So 29.1 kilowatt hours per 100 miles. That is very, very good. Such an improvement over the kinds of numbers I used to get from what I can remember. And just looking down at my calculator now, that works out as about a range of 257 miles. So, you know, that's fantastic. I know my average speed was only 45 miles an hour, and the slow roads coming back with the traffic on the motorways would probably have helped to keep that consumption down by lowering the average speed. So it would have been a little bit worse. But even on the way up, as I said earlier on, it was averaging around 30. I didn't have any issues there with traffic. So those are really good numbers. And once again, the car is fantastic to drive. It is so comfortable. The cruise control, the all of those features are just make this for such an enjoyable car. Like 7 hours and 15 minutes is a long time to spend in this car. And my back doesn't hurt. I feel comfortable. It was great. So I hope this has been a good video. It's been a while since I've made some videos, and hopefully there'll be a few more coming up soon, depending on time and work commitments. But I hope you've enjoyed this one, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.